The Real Estate Show on CJAD 800. Your real estate and mortgaging questions answered with Chantal Desjardins and Terry Kilakos.
Hello and welcome to the new music of the Real Estate Show here on CJAD. Is this your idea, Terry?
It was kind of boring, I gotta tell you. Last week when I did the show, I was like, oh my God, put me to sleep.
Wow, whereas this is like, put me to party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we do here.
That's what we do here on the Real Estate Show. That's Terry Kilakos, president of Northeast Mortgages and chartered mortgage broker. I am Chantal Desjardins, back after a week off. Was it a great show? Wonderful? Amazing?
It was off the hook.
Off
we
the
had
hook.
like a crazy party
I get it.
afterwards,
I get it.
and like people were calling
Yeah.
and they were like,
Texting.
thank God Chantal wasn't there.
So we don't have time for this anymore. But if you have any questions on real estate today, you can call us at 514-790-0800 or text us 514-800. Today's theme, your relationship to money. Now, my first instinct is I love money, right?
Do you?
I think I love it. Like, who doesn't love money?
Yeah. Do you cheat on your money?
I did, like, which bills with which? No. I don't even know what that means. How do you cheat on your money?
You know what? Did you post it on Instagram?
Yeah.
It was quite funny at the beginning of right before the show started. Chantal was like, "What are we talking about today?" I'm talking about our relationship to money, and I was like, "Do you cheat on your money?" And she's like screaming in her purse, "Don't listen
to him. It's not what it looks like." To a $5 bill.
If you go on Chantal's Instagram page, you'll see that.
Yes. So we'll get to that
video.
because I don't really know what you mean about cheating on your money, and
see.
So it'll be fun to check it out. But first, what about this AI conference? Talk about this.
Okay, so last week we had a friend of mine, Lori, who Lapour. For some reason I butcher that name, but anyways, so she was on the show, and she'll be on the show again today to talk for a couple of minutes about the AI conference that's coming up this Friday. Very interesting. We gave away 2 tickets to the conference last week. We're going to give away another 2 tickets today to the conference, but you didn't know that because you were here last week, right? So you didn't know that we actually gave stuff away. So we're going to be giving away a couple of tickets today.
What time do you want to do that?
We'll do it towards the end of the show, and so that you can participate, all you have to do is text in with a comment or a question, and you'll be put into the draw, or just text in saying, I want tickets to the AI conference, and you'll have them. At the end of the show, we'll do a little draw. You can also see the draw happen on Facebook.
Yeah.
And
you can follow along live on Facebook if you want to see what we look like.
Yeah.
Terry
Although I have had a couple of people tell me that you look a little bored sometimes.
Is that what they say? It's because of the cameras when you're
right.
So I will smile the entire way.
That's it.
The entire time. Market update. What's up with this Bank of Canada? They want the rates to go back to normal.
Just like the thorn in our side,
right? Just make a decision and stick with it already.
Exactly. Just set the rates, leave them alone, let people be. But this is not the reality of how the government works and how the banking system works. It's all about the ups and downs, right? So you end up having rates, they go down and then they go up and so on and so forth. So the Bank of Canada has said that they are basically in a mode right now where they will be raising rates, and they want to see rates go back to where they once were. When I say once were, I'm not talking about 13% interest. I'm talking about rates of hovering in the 4s, 5, maybe high 5s, okay, which
still seems like a lot.
It seems like a lot, and it's a scary kind of thought for a lot of people, especially people that got into the real estate market after 2009. People that were in the real estate market beforehand, they were used to it. I mean, an interest rate on a mortgage of 5% is fairly normal. It's not something that's not doable.
Right.
It's normal, and this is where they tend to be. But we had seen rates drop in the last little while, and the reason why we saw them drop is because obviously after the recession hit and all these kind of things, we had to go into this protectionism mode and kind of make sure that we stimulate the economy, and that's why rates went down. But now we're past that, and we're moving on from that, and the Bank of Canada wants to see rates go up. Plus, we have to remember that in a couple of years, Canada is looking kind of down the barrel of another recession. If rates were to remain where they are currently, what would basically happen is they wouldn't have any place to maneuver. They wouldn't be able to lower rates. They would just have to kind of ride out this recession, and it might actually take a lot longer. However, if they start to raise rates and a recession hits, then they could basically start lowering rates again to stimulate the economy and kind of get Canada out of the recession.
So sometimes it's good to higher the rates.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, this is something that we talk about with our clients all the time. This is, when interest rates are low, and they still are very low rates, it's your opportunity to either pay down your mortgage or maximize the amount of money that you're putting away in savings, right? Because if rates are low, your payments are low. If your payments are low, then all of a sudden you can put away, money into your RSPs and so on and so forth. So it's important to kind of remember that it's a balance between things. And later on, when rates start to go up, well, at least it's just going back up to normal where it should be.
And what do you think is better, putting money towards paying off your mortgage or into an RSP?
It depends. This is going to be part of what we're going to be talking about today, kind of your relationship with money. People have this phobia of debt, which is understandable, but you have to understand that phobia comes from, our parents and our grandparents. And it's coming from a time when interest rates were in the teens, and I'd be interested to find out if, we can have some people texting in, if they had mortgages in the 80s, what kind of interest rate they had, right? Just so that people kind of get things in perspective. When rates are really high and they're, in the teens, well, then at that point, you gotta look at it and say, yes, I want to pay off this mortgage as quickly as possible. But when you're talking about rates that are in the 3s, 4s, you're almost better off kind of saving more money, maximizing those RSPs, maximizing the savings, so that way you can use the fruits of those savings and the fruits of those RSPs via tax refunds, so on and so forth, and use that to actually pay down the mortgage. So you're kind of double dipping in a way, right? And that's my philosophy. This is the way that I kind of speak with my clients when I meet with them, and it works. A lot of we've had clients that have saved up and kind of completely revolutionized their finances just by a little simple paradigm shift like that.
Yeah, you mentioned fear, and a few weeks ago we were talking about it, how it can stand in the way of buying a property. Why is your relationship with money so important?
Because it's everything. And people, kind of, there's kind of two schools of thought, right? Well, money is everything, but people are going to think that money is greed and money is this and money is that. But the reality is that money is very, very important. It is pretty much the thing that our society has as a measuring stick, right? This is what we use to determine people's worth. Now, whether it's right or wrong, I'm not here to kind of discuss that, but people's perception of money needs to change. They need to understand that they actually need money and not actually be afraid of going out there and making the money that they're supposed to be making, right? If that makes sense, what I'm saying right now, right? Yeah.
It makes sense. I'm on board.
All right.
We're getting...
I'm trying to like hold back on what I really want to say.
Really?
Yeah, I am.
Can we hear what you really want to say after?
No, maybe during the commercial break.
Wow, now I want to know.
Facebook.
I didn't even know there was something else you wanted to say.
There is. I'm holding back so that I avoid getting like the death threats that I usually get like during the week when I talk about
if ever
stuff
there
like
was
this.
a tease coming up after we take a look at the roads, Terry's going to tell us what he really thinks about it and let you text in. We're getting a couple texts already, but for now, let's head over to Mark Shalhoub with a look at the roads.
Hey, Chantal, we have ourselves a slow go approaching the Dorval Circle on the 520 westbound. People using it as an alternate route.
You know what I really want to say? Are we okay?
Are we
live?
Yeah. Hit us. I get excited when you want to say controversial things.
Money is really, and I'm still gonna hold back because it could be seen it's fairly politically incorrect what I want to say. When you look at society as a whole, kind of once upon a time, people with money, they were almost revered, right? People would look at them and they would say,
we want to be like them.
We want to emulate them. We want to be like them. But unfortunately, society has kind of changed. And society today is basically looks at people with money and almost kind of like wants to dismiss them, and
Why
they're pricks and they're assholes. And
they're obviously not spending enough time with family and with doing charity and.
But the reality is that the people that are so high and mighty, they're sitting on like their soapbox and they're kind of looking and they're like, what's important is to give back to your community.
Right.
Well, what better way to give back to your community than actually go out there and earn some money and set up charitable, donations and set up this and set up whatever.
I mean, I guess it's all about balance, right? Like, obviously, people are more important than, your family and your friends are more important than money. But the more money you have, the more opportunity you have to enjoy your family and your friends.
Exactly.
So you just have to find the right balance.
Exactly. Anyways, for me, I spent a good part of my life. So in 1999, when I became a financial advisor, I was all about money, right? I had like this very materialistic kind of way of thinking. I wanted everything related to money. I wanted to be close to it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I got out of that world, and September 11th happened, and I lost family in the Twin Towers, and I actually started to associate money to evil. Almost. So I actually started to completely I tried to separate myself from it. And I realized as the years went on that I actually can serve the greater good by actually making money and having money.
Yeah.
I could help my friends, I could help my family, I could support
help the
community, I could support my children, I could do everything that I want to do by actually making money. And this whole notion of I have enough, I'm making enough, it's a very selfish way of thinking. Because if you say, I make enough money to live, well, I'm sorry, you're fucking selfish. Like, let's be honest here, okay? Because what you're basically saying is, I don't care about the outside world, I only care about me.
Yeah. I have enough to make me feel good right now, so...
That's all I need.
Yeah.
Well, you're selfish.
Yeah.
What you want to do is, you want to actually make your money for yourself, but you also want to make more so that you could support your children and your wife and your husband or your parents or your community or your church or whatever you believe in.
As long as you don't have to work so hard that then that kind of sacrifices those relationships.
What's
right?
that? Yeah.
Unless you have to work so hard that then that kind of gives up, some of the time that you can, if you're working so hard that you're providing for everybody.
The notion of balance, as far as I'm concerned, is... No.
You don't think so? See, I think you can kind of have it all. I think you can have it,
Yes and no. It depends on what level you are in your career, and it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to build something, there's no balance.
So you just have to be okay with that. You're giving up a bunch of, family time or to build, and then, but to what end? So then you just keep doing that forever?
Look, for me, when I got into the mortgage business, I always decided, I said, I'm going to give my weekends to my wife and my kids.
Right.
And I worked, and, Marav is here, and she can kind of attest to
Marav,
this.
you want to come say
I
hi?
literally worked, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10, 11 o'clock at night. I would get home.
We got to go, guys.
We'll continue after
you don't want to touch
27.
on this okay. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. Terry Kilakos, president of Northeast Mortgages. He has given us some juicy tidbits. If you want to go over to his Facebook page, we are getting the good stuff. Obviously the good stuff comes on the air too, but some really good stuff comes off
I
here.
dropped a few F-bombs.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering about that. So email Terry Kilakos at Northeast Mortgages. I don't know what your email is.
I just kind of in passing, right? So last week I did drop a kind of a little type of an F-bomb.
A type?
A type.
Oh.
But it wasn't a full on
right. I see.
It was like, so
I'm sure that went over great.
It did. It was okay.
Yeah,
It was all right.
Good,
it was okay.
Good.
I got a lecture from my wife.
Okay.
She's like, you can't say that. And I'm like, of course I can. It's not part of the CRTC do not say list.
So, speaking of fear, the fear of money is the topic today. We were talking about, why it's so important. And you're saying because it is very, very important. And we were kind of having a little debate in the commercial break about, how is there a balance that you can strike between working and making money to support your family and actually spending time with the family. And
like, I have clients, right? They're going to come in, and this is partially where it comes from. I have like these two polar opposite type of clients, right? So I have the clients who kind of are aspiring to do more and be more. And then I have like the ones that are completely like just going for it. Okay. I mean, so we have the aspirers
Yeah.
and the people that are doing it.
The doers.
The doers. Okay. And the aspirers, if I look at their philosophy and if I look at the way that they think about money and the way that they interact with it, it's a very different relationship that they have with it than the other ones. Right? So the ones that are actually out there working and doing their things. And I'll have people, they'll come in and they'll see me and they'll say, you know what, Terry, I really want to buy an investment property. And I say, why? Because I want financial freedom. Okay, great. Good place to start, right? So we sit down and we start calculating things and we look at different options. And I say, you know, you should go for an 8-plex or you should go for a 12-plex. Oh, no, I don't want that. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, why not? You said you want financial freedom. And they turn to me and they say, well, we want to start small. We want to start with like a condo or we want to start with a duplex. And I look at them and I'm like, but that is not giving you your financial freedom that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them will tell me straight out, I'm scared. I'm scared of committing that much capital. I'm scared of making that move. My family has always told me this.
Mm-hmm.
My family has told me that, just like myself, right? So when I bought my first property, the 4-plex in Hochelaga Maisonneuve, which I've talked about a gazillion times, people made fun of me, right? So my peers, my friends, their relationship with money was very different than my relationship with money.
You were willing to go out and have a risk, and they were like, "This is crazy."
That's it. They were like, "You're crazy. You know, last year you could have bought it for 60,000. Now you paid 107,000, and you're nuts, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So this is what people were saying to me. Then I came home after I bought that, and I wanted to buy more. So I went to my mom and dad, and I said, "Listen, I want to buy properties. I want to buy more." And my mom was fairly supportive of the whole decision because my mom had given me a piece of advice when I was in my early teenage years. And she said, you know, never buy a single family home until you have enough rent coming in that's going to actually pay for that single family home.
Right.
Right. So you collect a whole bunch of tenants, let them pay you rent. And then once you have enough rent coming in and it could pay for your house, it could pay for your lifestyle, then you go for it. And it stuck with me in my head. My dad, on the other hand, was a very different conversation. He was like, for what? He's like, why do you want to buy more? You just bought a 4-plex.
You have enough.
You have enough. And I'm like, yeah, but I want more. I want to have more properties. I want to have more rents coming in. And he looked at me, he's like, you want to be like Onassis. You want people to look at you and tell you you're like Onassis, you know? And because, you know, for us, the Greeks, right, it's...
Right.
Onassis is our hero, right? So... So anyways, so I was like, okay, well, yeah, I guess you're right. And we've talked about this during the fear show where I kind of, I didn't do it because I let other people's fears about money and their relationship with money influence me. And as I started getting into during the break, you know, in 1999, I worked for Investors Group and I did that for a couple of years and I did it until April 2001, which a time I left because I felt like a hypocrite because I was investing my money in real estate, whereas when people would come and say to me, where should we invest our money? I would have to say to them, buy the growth fund, buy this, buy that, right? So I felt hypocritical. And, you know, for people that have known me long enough, they know that that's not my style. So I got out of the business. Well, September 2001 comes along and planes crash into the World Trade Center, and you know I lose family that was in the towers at the time,
right?
Who was working as a commodities broker, one of my cousins, and my relationship with money at that moment changed drastically.
How?
Because I saw that as a almost like money was evil. You know, money was not, you know, it's not what you want. It's, you know, we don't want to, you know, you shouldn't go after money. Like it's just, you know, just work, go out, and all these things that I heard my whole life, you know, from my grandparents and my parents, came back, you know, get a job,
keep your head down,
keep your head, yeah, just, you know. And it took me a really long time to realize that all that BS that was in my head was just that. It was BS, right? And that's when my relationship with money started to change. And especially once we got into the mortgage business and stuff, it changed completely. And I embraced that side of me that actually loved money and knew that I can do so much more with it. And when I have people, they come and they see me and they say to me, hey, I have enough. I look at them and I say, well, I'm sorry, and this is what we were talking about during the break, you're selfish.
Right.
When I hear someone say to me, I have enough money, I don't need more, you're selfish.
Which is a funny statement, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, if you can be happy with what you have, you've achieved,
But this is the difference in thinking, right? This is the paradigm shift that people need to make. Otherwise, rates are going to go up and you're not going to have enough. And this is where people have to wake up and they have to realize that eventually rates are going up. Having enough now means that you're going to be lacking later.
It's funny that, how you grew up and you were talking about your mom's versus your dad's opinion and how, that affects your outlook on money growing up. We just got a text from Mary saying in my home talking about money was taboo. Same with mine. Like we never talked about money, it was just kind of, the house was, you bought a house and it was just enough for what you needed and you never talked about it. But other people that I grew up, friends of mine that are now doing really well, it's because their parents were like very open with it and said, sometimes you got to take a risk.
That's right. Absolutely. And it's so, so, so important, but nobody ever does.
We'll talk more about fear with Terry Kilakos, president of Northeast Mortgages and chartered mortgage broker, coming up. You can text us your questions, 514-800. Call us, 514-790-800. We'll talk about, how you can take that fear and you can turn it into something good, coming up.
The Real Estate Show is brought to you by Northeast Mortgages.
Picking up sushi from a gas station? Not a smart choice. But you know what is? Picking up a new 2018 Escape during the Ford Smart Choice event. Right now, get 0% purchase financing for up to 60 months, plus no extra charge winter tires, rims, and sensors. You can also get it with Ford Pass Connect Wi-Fi, so it'll be easy to search for lunch.
Talk about money.
Money.
Oh my goodness.
Are we hot?
We are hot.
We're hot. We are hot. So how'd you grow up talking about money?
Oh my God. My house was also taboo.
Was
to
it?
talk about
Nobody
money.
talked about it?
No. You're not allowed to ask
Yeah, never. You
any
never ask
questions about like the financial situation of the family.
Or like I've even found
even
like,
advice about
for
saving money.
Exactly. I was just gonna say even like budgeting for
Nothing.
there was never any conversations. I know kids now in like high school are starting to learn a little bit about.
I wish I learned.
Me too. Like
I had to learn by falling on my face many
times.
It's really dumb.
And I was just telling my boyfriend that I want my kids eventually to let my unborn kids, but when I have them to know about money. I think it's so important to discuss with them so that at least they know. They don't get to be like in their 30s and be like, well, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, I was reading an article about how so many people now are buying their kids their first home because they don't even know how to.
Right. Well, I was out for a drink with a friend last night, and he's a 35-year-old man, and he was like, "So my mom was telling me that, It's like it sounds like you're talking to like a 17-year-old kid, but this is like a professional, like a media person that just. We're all so a bit like you graduate from university and then you get a job and you just kind of like are skilled in whatever you're doing, but.
I find in Europe and in in Europe at 18 you start growing. You leave your home,
right?
You go to university, then you get your own apartment, and you have to learn about these things.
Yeah.
Here, a lot of people in there.
Well, when I first met, I knew Terry from here, but when I first bought my condo, I met him for breakfast, and I was like, okay, I have to tell you something. I don't know anything about money. I was like, I have no idea about mortgage rates. I was like, so I'm relying on you to do me good. And Terry, you did me good. Wait, that sounds bad.
That sounds
that sounds real bad. That sounds real bad. You did me medium.
That sounds even worse.
Terrible.
So, just so you understand, I have... Okay, first of all, I'm, butting in.
No.
Okay.
It's your show. I'm the one butting in.
No, I like it.
Is it make sense what I'm saying, like about like this being selfish?
It does make sense. It's just a statement that's probably pretty unpopular right now.
Yes.
Because
You're getting
so
like
many
a barrage
people,
of
all
text.
the Zen people are saying, just be happy with what you have. Like that is the sign of ultimate happiness, is to be okay with, not always looking for the next thing.
Great. So make what you need and give everything else away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to make $50,000
that,
a year. You want to make $50,000 a year. Make $50,000 a year.
Live on 20.
No, well, you need. Let's say you need 50,000. Make your 50, okay, and then if you make 150, give 100,000 away.
Right.
But
obviously nobody's going to do that.
Obviously, but it's one of these.
But
things
what if you
where...
only needed $50,000 to live, and then you're going to make an extra $100,000? But then that $100,000 worth of time that you've put into, to making that money means you can't go to little Timmy's soccer game, or, you and your wife can't go on that vacation because you don't have the time.
You're very focused on that.
I'm very curious as to, like, the balance, the work-life balance.
Okay, you do have, obviously, for me, family is very important, okay? And I don't think I have ever missed a single one of my kids' events, or...
So then you do have a good balance. You've been able to figure it out.
But it's not balance, it's not the right word. It's just priorities.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you can work 12 hours and still go to your kid's birthday party. It's not about balance. You can have a crazy
It's not like doing an
work
8-hour day and then going
it's
about working a 12-hour day.
It's not about the number of hours. It's
Yeah.
about the quality
for
hours
sure.
that you're going to spend with the people you love, right?
Like, when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not on my phone.
Yeah.
Okay, I am not doing something else. If I'm with my kids, I am 100% with my kids.
Yeah.
And they are 100% with me.
Which is great, because I'm sure a lot of people, like a lot of guys I know with their kids, they're always on their phones.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, good job, Timmy. And then they're back
Exactly.
to,
That little Timmy, man.
little Timmy, man, he's got it rough.
But you understand that, we live in a society today where the balance, and I put it in quote marks,
Just means people are not working
bullshit.
hard.
It's bullshit.
Because they're using family as an excuse.
Yeah. You know how many times I've had brokers, they come in and they're like, oh, I can't come in today because my family. I have to do this. I can't do this. I can't do that. If I go back to the day when I was working at Investors Group, right? So especially towards like the tail end of me working there, my regional director at the time, he saw that I wasn't coming into the office, okay? He saw that I was kind of like starting to slack and starting to not be there. So he comes up to me one day and he says, what's going on with you? Like, why aren't you? And I'm like, oh, I'm taking care of my grandfather. He's at home, he's paralyzed, he's this, he's that. Which was all true.
Yeah.
I was, okay? I would get my grandfather out of bed every day. I would put him in bed at the end of the day. I would wash him a couple of times a week. That's what I did. Loved my grandparents, okay? But I was using it as an excuse.
Yeah.
Okay? I was using it as an excuse to not be at work.
Mm-hmm.
So when he approached me with it, he said, so what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm doing all of this. And he's like, wow, that's really noble of you. Okay? He goes, but I have a question. He goes, don't you, do you have a mom? Is it your mom's dad? Or I was like, it's my dad's dad. So he's like, okay, where's your dad? And I said, my dad's working. And he's like, oh, okay. Where's your mom? And I said, my mom's working. And do you have brothers, sisters? I was like, yeah, but they're working. And he looks at me and he's like, well, what the fuck? Don't you work? Straight up.
Very true.
Right? And I was like, oh, I never thought of it like that.
Right, but then if you don't do it and they don't do it, who's going to do it?
But it was as if
Think of like
your
this.
work is less important than their work. You
But
know?
think of it like this, okay? Imagine a different scenario. Imagine a scenario where I can work, make so much money
So you get somebody else to do it.
that I can hire someone
Very
to
true.
actually take care of my grandfather.
Probably better than you
full-time.
could.
Yeah.
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 And as soon as he said that to me, I was like, oh my God, it's true.
Yeah. And
You
then
know?
the time you spend with him is going to be quality time, not time that you're like,
Exactly.
kind of in a
Getting
rush to
him
do
out of
something
bed
else.
and doing this and doing that.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of my philosophy started to change kind of with that conversation, right? Anyways, Laura's gonna be on at. We're gonna call her at 1:45.
Okay. Like right after the traffic.
After the traffic, yeah.
Great.
And we'll keep her on for like 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
And she'll tell us about her conference. And what kind of text do we have?
So we have interested in AI conference tickets. We have a couple on the, when you were talking about the 80s mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
So I can chat about those if you want.
Yep.
1980s mortgage, first at 11%, second at 15%. My first mortgage I was paying 17.99% more than 35 years ago. I had $28,000 mortgage, managed to pay it off in 7 years with only myself working, and had 2 kids along the way.
I think we're
Just a
back.
10?
This is it. So what do you want to do? You want to get to the text? You want to get to more of the fear?
Let's go
Text? Texas?
Are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
Welcome back. The Real Estate Show. Here on CJAD. Terry Kilakos, president of Northeast Mortgages and chartered mortgage broker, making some very unpopular statements today.
Yeah.
Saying that, there's no such thing as you've got enough, be happy with it.
You got to have more.
Got to have more because then you can take care of more people with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I ran by that philosophy of it's enough, I'm fine, I wouldn't be employing Olympia or Danny.
Right.
I wouldn't be, her giving, she uses that money for her kids. Danny does the same. Okay. These are people that are working very closely with me. We have close to 50 some odd people working in our company right now.
Right. And none of that,
none of that would exist
right.
if I
Very
didn't,
true.
if I said it's enough.
You just kind of have to shift the way you think about it.
1,000%.
Check out the video that we've got going on Terry's Facebook page talking about his grandpa and kind of an interesting idea about, how we spend time and how we can spend money on family and all that good stuff. So we got a couple texts coming in. We were talking about earlier about mortgages back in the, because for me now, 3% is that's what I'm used to.
Right.
So I can't imagine in the teens, but we got a text. My first mortgage, I was paying 17.99%.
Yep.
More than 35 years ago, I had a $28,000 mortgage, managed to pay it all off in 7 years with only myself working, had 2 kids along the way. That's from James. That's insane.
Yeah.
17.99%.
But people wake up. This is the reality.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, this is the reality. We've been living in this bubble in the last 10 years.
I like the bubble.
The bubble is not real. Okay. Yes, the bubble is there. And the thing that really ticks me off is when I have people, they come into, I used to have this kind of this comment that I would get from people. Okay. This is before interest rates were low and stuff like that. And to this day, I never understood it. And if I would have heard it from one person, I would have said, okay, I'm hearing it from one person. It's just the person's crazy. But I kept hearing it. And the comment was, I don't need credit anymore because now I have my house, I have my mortgage, right? Because I would tell them, you should structure things like this because that's going to make sure that that's going to maximize your credit as much as possible. And people would literally tell me, what? I have my house now. I don't need credit. Hello? Really? So that was one thing that I used to hear, which used to drive me crazy. The thing that I hear now, which is almost on a, I'll say monthly basis now because people have kind of changed their tune a little bit, but it was almost on a daily basis. Terry, you don't know what you're talking about. We are in a new norm now. This is what rates are going to be like. They're never going back up. And I'm like, you're dreaming in Technicolor, buddy. If you think that rates are going to stay at 2.3%, you're crazy.
Right.
And people were like, well, this is the new norm and you're going to see it's not going to go up.
See, that strikes, we're talking fear today, that strikes fear in me. Because what about all the people that are, getting the house that they can afford at 3% if interest rates?
Well, the reality is this. Hopefully, as rates go up, so do incomes. And that's going to offset the fact that rates are going to go up. But the other thing that you have to remember is that people that are securing mortgages right now, they're doing it on amortizations of 25 years.
Right.
Okay, which is the max that you can go to if you have an insured mortgage. 5 years from now, when those mortgages come up for renewal, chances are, depending on what interest rates are going to be doing, the government is going to loosen up the mortgage rules a little bit, maybe allow people go to 30 years, maybe 35-year amortizations. So by allowing people that leeway to be able to kind of stretch their amortizations, it'll actually lower the payments.
Right. 514-790-0800 if you have something to say. Text us at 514-800. Just got a text. We had an $88,000 mortgage in 1988 with an interest rate at 21%.
Ouch.
21?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
And people are complaining about 2.5%.
So we're talking about, your relationship to money, where it came from. Most of us from our parents, we didn't talk about money growing up. What are some of the lessons that we learned that we can now apply? Like, how can we turn this into something good?
So the first thing that you need to realize is that you have to shift your focus away from what you don't want. Okay. And I'm trying to kind of summarize this down to 5-10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I normally talk about with people over 2 hours.
Right.
Okay. You basically have to shift your focus away from what you don't want, because what you focus on is what you get.
Yeah.
Right.
What you put out into the universe, you're gonna attract.
100%. Anyone that's read The Secret or anything like that, that's the whole philosophy behind it. What you focus is what you're gonna get. So if your focus is debt, what you're gonna have at the end of the day is debt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We also have to stop looking at what we're earning and start focusing on what our net worth is. And that's one of the things that people can't get their head around, right? So, they're going to say, well, I'll say to people, how much net worth do you have? And they'll look at me, I have nothing. I have nothing. I owe, $400,000 on my house. I have zero net worth, or I'm in the negative because I owe $400,000 on my house.
Right.
And I look at them and I say, well, what about the house? What's it worth? Well, the house is worth $1 million. Okay, so if your house is worth $1 million
and you only owe
and $400,000, that means that you're plus $600.
Yeah.
If you sell it for $1 million, you'll end up with $600 in your bank account. And they look at me and they're like,
"Oh yeah,
oh, I never thought of it like that." But this is how you have to look at it. Unfortunately, people are stuck in the liabilities column, right? So I always tell people you have to look at your net worth. And then your net worth is equal to your assets less your liabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Focus on the assets. Let the asset column grow. Sometimes the asset column is going to grow at the expense of liabilities, right? So basically what's going to happen is you're going to have to get in debt to start building up some assets. And what do I mean by that? Let's say you go and you buy an investment property and you end up getting a mortgage on that investment property. You're going to have liabilities, but you're also
debt.
Exactly, but you're going to have an asset, and you're going to have an asset that's generating a fruit for you every month via the rents that you're collecting. Mm-hmm. You use those fruits and you invest it. So let's say you take those fruits and you put them in your RRSPs, right? Now your RRSPs are going to generate a tax refund for you. So you see how one simple investment has had almost 3 layers of savings, if you will, or 3 layers of assets that get formed.
Right.
If you just focus on paying off the liability, so let's say you take those rents and you say, well, I'm going to take them all, I'm going to dump them onto this debt that I have. Great. You've paid down the liabilities, but you haven't built anything in your assets.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't gone up at all. Your net worth has gone up as a byproduct of the fact that you paid off the liability, but the actual asset hasn't increased. Your asset columns has remained the same.
So what's better to do with that money?
So what you want to do is you want to save it. You want to put it into investment vehicles that generate more returns. And there was this great book that I had read. It was called The Richest Man in Babylon. And anyone that is interested in this kind of stuff, you really need to read this book, because The Richest Man in Babylon puts a lot of things in perspective. And they were talking about, there's a rich man who's talking to a poor man. And he was getting advice from this rich man. And the rich man kind of looked at the poor man and he said to him, you got to save your money. So the guy starts saving. And then eventually, as he saved and he started to just get a little bit of a cushion, he decided to take his savings and go spend them on milk and honey, right? Whatever. So he had a big feast. And the rich man kind of laughed at him and he said to him, you know how to eat the children of your savings. And the guy was like, what? He's like, forget it. Your wealth is gone. Start over. And he basically explained to him that when you're saving your money, it's not enough for your money to earn money. You want your money to earn money. You want the children of your money to work for you and their children to work for you. And he talks about having kind of like an army of golden slaves,
Right.
that are going to be working for you to continuously generate wealth for you. That's what you have to do. That's the relationship that you need to change with money. That's how you have to look at it.
Terry Kilakos, president of Northeast Mortgages and teller of stories. I like it. We're going to talk more about how to use fear to turn, your relationship to money into something really good. Maybe some more fables.
Sure.
Coming up after this. But first, here's Mark Chaloux with a look at the roads.
We have a slow go, Chantal, still up that 15 northbound, a little over 10 minutes from the De la Vérendrye sector. We had a stalled vehicle at Sources that has been removed from a problematic spot just near the entranceway, but we still have some extra volume on the
7 habits of highly effective people, and one of it is like, you want the golden egg, and you want it now, but you also have to kind of massage the goose or be nice to the goose so that the goose continues to get the eggs.
Absolutely.
So you can either just, pay off your stuff now and that's fine, but then you're not going to have anything in the future. But if you kind of put it into a goose.
Let's talk about the goose.
The goose.
When we come back.
I like the goose.
So we have Laura. You want to tell him to call Laura?
Yeah.
Laura?
Hi, Dave. Could you please call Laura? Cool. You got her?
You called her Lori before.
Laura.
Lori or Laura?
Laura. So I have a question here on Facebook. Hello, Facebook line. Young adult millennials who are working, not rich
yet, cool. So for when we come back or whatever,
and are paying rent with annual increases, what advice do you give those who want to own property but do not have the required down payment, deposit of funds? Do they have to save, or can they find solutions now to own a condo, etc.? Very, very, very good question. Education has to start at a really, really early age, okay? For me, when I was 19 years old, my sisters wanted me to move out of my parents' place. And I just made
Your sisters wanted you to move out? They're like, get the heck out of here, Terry?
Well, basically, they were older than me, and they were like, you have to move out of mom and dad's place, otherwise you're going to be 40 years old and you're still going to be
I thought they were still living there.
No,
they're
no,
like,
no.
We do not want you in the house anymore, so you just pack your bag and get the heck out.
Actually. Oh, we're back.
No, I think this is that fake
Is it a tease?
start.
Are we
fake start? They do a fake start.
So anyways, so basically what ends up happening is I made the conscious decision at an early age that I needed to, I wasn't going to move out until I actually bought something. So I saved and eventually ended up buying something. The education with the millennials has to start, number one, with work. Okay, the work ethic has to be there. You need to work. Going to school, it's not enough.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is the reality. Parents kind of like, no, just focus on school, focus on this, focus on that. No, you're not doing your kids any favors. Get them to go to work. Go to work at McDonald's if you have to.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Teach them the work ethic.
Teach them the work ethic. Once the work ethic is there, they will build up money, and it's not very complicated. You want to buy a $200,000 condo, you need 10 grand. And there's ways to go around it. You can borrow the money. You could borrow it from parents. You could borrow it from grandparents. You could even freaking get a line of credit.
Yeah.
And use the line of credit to do it, to put as a down payment. But yet people do not do it because they don't think that they could.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend right now living in a beautiful rented place in Old Montreal, but she's like, I don't want to, I can't afford this kind of condo, so I'm just going to keep throwing my money away renting it, instead of buying a condo that's a fraction of the what you'd get. But when you tell her just buy something,
absolutely,
buy something that's not as good, and then at least you're putting your money into.
You can live now, or you can live later. But I think that you can kind of have both. You could have that balance. For me, like I said, I moved out. It wasn't the greatest place. I bought, like I said, I lived in a freaking Hochelaga Maison.
Yeah.
Crack house on one side. Actually, the Hells Angels were on this side. The crack house was on this side. Great guys. I loved them to death. We had such a good
Were
time
they really
together.
good guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No.
That's Terry Kilakos.
I know this guy. He's a good guy.
I know him. He's good. It's fun.
Anyways, so we just got a text from Leor on Facebook, and he's like, I juggle 10 jobs and go to school. This is awesome.
10 jobs?
10 jobs.
10 jobs?
10 jobs.
I don't know about 10 jobs, Leor. Maybe you got 10 jobs, but like that seems like a lot of jobs. Like 2 jobs I get. Maybe 3 jobs. 10 jobs? 20 jobs.
I've juggled 5.
I guess. I do like a couple. I do radio and TV and stand-up. But those, like, I guess I was picturing like 10 half-time jobs. That's...
By the way, we're not talking about fear. We're talking about your relationship to money.
Oh, I don't know why I was talking about fear.
Maybe it's because you're afraid of money.
It is. I am afraid of money.
Oh.
So if there's something you want to chat about first. So Laura or Lori?
Yeah. Laura.
Laura.
Guys, it's back.
The Real Estate Show here on CJAD. Your relationship with money. We're not afraid of it, are we, Terry?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No, we're not.
We're going to embrace it. We're going to hug it.
We are.
You know, you got to think of money as a little squirrel in a park.
That's
you
weird.
Know? No, hold on.
I would never hug a squirrel.
Why?
I would be afraid of it. Fear.
Maybe, that
Maybe I
should
just
be
got
your
fear
money
on my
animal.
brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
We
talk a little
have Laura is not afraid. She's here to talk about the AI conference coming up. Laura, are you there?
Hi, yes I am. Thank
Hey,
you for
Laura.
having me.
Are you afraid of money, Laura?
I don't think so. Are you guys afraid of money?
No.
A little bit.
No. I think we're good.
Okay.
All right.
So tell us about this conference.
So the IP Vision conference is happening this Friday at Palais des Congrès. And in a nutshell, it's to better prepare organizations for technology. And this year we are focusing on artificial intelligence. So just to build off that, we are trying to start discussions that businesses are already thinking of or have not thought of yet. And that is potentially, how to align your technology strategy with your business strategy, or how to attract talent for these projects that you're thinking of, or where to start, or if you need resources, where do you go get them? So the day is this Friday, and we have 9 great speakers that are going to be talking and discussing about all these things that are all on our minds. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
I love it. And Laura was kind enough last week to give 2 tickets to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And she's done the same thing this time. So at the end of the show, we'll do our draw. It'll be on Facebook again. And Laura, I guess you're going to be reaching out to the winners at some point today to announce that they've won.
Yep. Yes, I will. So we are giving away 2 tickets to the listeners of the show. And and so very excited to see who wins, and we're very excited to see the winners this Friday.
Great.
Very cool.
Thanks very much, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks so much.
Your relationship to money. So what is this financial thermostat I've heard about?
So that's one of the things that we've talked about. We talk about it at my office all the time, and I'm borrowing this from a few motivational people, including Jim Rohn and Anthony Robbins. Okay, so Jim Rohn and Anthony Robbins talks about how we all have this preset thermostat inside us that dictates whether or not we're going to do something, how successful we're going to be when it works with money. So let's say you end up having this threshold, and you say, I'm good with 50 grand a year. That's all I want to earn. I want to make 50,000. If I make 50,000, I'm happy. So you basically start to work your butt off, okay, to get to that point, right? So you reach that level of success. But what ends up happening to all of us, including myself, except my thermostat is maybe set a little bit higher than the average person. But typically what happens is once we get to that comfort zone of where we want to be, we tend to back off. Right? And it's kind of like a thermostat, you have it in the room, you set it to a temperature, and the heating is going and it's going and it's going, and it gets you up to that temperature. And then as soon as you hit that temperature, the heating shuts off. And if it goes above that, the air conditioning kicks on, and it basically brings the room back down to a point that you're comfortable to. Well, it's the same thing. You get to your point, you reach it, and then when you surpass that point, because a lot of people will, all of a sudden you'll do stuff that'll self-sabotage you. Right? And it would actually bring you back to a point where you're on all kinds of stuff, not showing up to meetings. I have brokers all the time. They walk in, they're like, I want to make this much money. And I look at them and I'm like, great. So we put a plan in place and they start working at it. And then all of a sudden, once they start to reach that level of success,
they take their foot off the gas.
Foot is off the gas. Sometimes the parking brake goes on. And I look at them and I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
you know, and you could see that they're self-sabotaging. You could see that what they're actually doing is to kind of like, it's this protectionism, this protection
Because why?
mechanism.
They're just they don't actually, you know, they're afraid of.
It's your success thermostat. You know, this is what it comes down to, and it's unfortunate. It does happen, and I, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, like I said, everyone has it. It's just set differently for different people. You know, like for you, your thermostat is set to a certain temperature, just as is mine, and just as is Murav's.
They're all different.
It's everyone's different.
What about credit? So speaking of your relationship with money, your relationship with credit is very different. Like my old boyfriend, you know, his parents were like, never get into debt, only spend what you have. But then, you know, I've friends that are living on credit and they're doing, you know, great, apparently.
Yeah, you know,
what do you teach your kids
people
about credit?
Unfortunately love credit and they hate saving. You know, and again, it's focusing on the wrong column. It's focusing on the liabilities as opposed to actually focusing on the prosperity. I've always been into the philosophy, it doesn't matter if you pay 20%, 30% on a credit card or a debt or whatever you're going to be buying, as long as it makes sense. If I tell you, you know what, I have an investment for you, you have to borrow the money to do it. It's going to cost you 20% to do it, but it's going to yield you 40% return. Well, it makes sense, right? You're making 40, you're spending 20, it's all good. You're going to make 20 in the end. Unfortunately, people don't think like that. They don't think of credit as a leverage, which is what it actually is. And that's how people should think of it. It's a way to leverage yourself to be able to actually
make more money eventually.
Make more money. People look at credit and they're like, oh, you know what? I need to go on vacation, so I'm going to put it on my credit cards. Or I need a big screen TV, or I need this, or I need that. That's how they think of credit. They think of it as a way to buy more stuff.
Right.
But buying more stuff is not what's going to
It's not going to make you more money.
That's right. Exactly. Buying that big screen TV at $2,000, the minute you bring it home, it's worth $1,000. You effectively just reduced your net worth by $1,000.
I love this topic. Let's sum it up. So your relationship to money, what are you going to tell? What are you going to tell the people out there besides go to your Facebook page and check out our video with all the little nuggets and the breaks?
I think that you need to stop listening to that voice in your head that that's been programmed by all these people in your life, whether it was teachers, parents, and whatnot, and realize that money is not evil. Money is not the end. You know, it's not the thing that, you know, it's going to cause fire and brimstone and stuff like that. Money is just an object that you can ultimately use to help yourself and help your environment and help your community and your family. And as long as people started thinking about that and looked at things like that, things would be very different.
Terry Kilakos, president of Northeast Mortgages and chartered mortgage broker. You can reach him. Our show's done, but you can reach him anytime. 514-680-4674. That's it for another week. So we'll see you next Sunday.
Absolutely.
Bye.
The opinions expressed in the preceding program.
Not going to be happy that we went an extra minute. Is that what was he giving me a look?
Yeah, and also I told him there's a call and he's shaking his head at me.
Yeah,
You
but
didn't
I
want us
can't,
to go to the call? Yeah,
I
like
can't make the call.
no.
Okay, so all right, are we live? Chantal,
Yes?
who won the tickets?
Who won the tickets?
You know how I did it last time? I'm
How'd you
coming.
do it?
I'm coming. Scroll. We're gonna scroll. But you gotta look away. You can't. You can't.
We can't see you.
You can't look.
Can it be kids too, or just
could be whoever.
grown-ups? Okay, so what am I doing?
Just scroll up and down.
Scroll this one.
You know you didn't actually scroll, right?
I scrolled!
No, you gotta move.
You're just moving
the
them.
I'm
moving the mouse.
mouse.
Go. Do it again.
Scroll.
Oh, you're so
You're
weird.
a terrible scroller.
See, I scrolled.
All right.
All right.
So how about okay? This one, that one that landed on. Hey, I want tickets. My kid's is huge into programming. He's 10. Laugh out loud.
Cool.
This would blow his mind.
Aw,
Awesome.
blows
Done.
mine.
You win.
Way to go, guy that didn't leave his name.
Done.
Grab
We're
the
doing
number.
it.
We're gonna
You gonna
text
call
him
him?
back. Yeah.
Do you see it, or do you want me to send it to you?
No, I don't have the text.
Oh, I'll show Terry's like, don't trip over the cord. Don't trip
I
over the cord.
literally just
Don't
tripped
trip
over
over the cord.
But did you just disconnect the whole thing?
No, it's okay. It's
Yeah,
all good.
right.
It's all good.
That's pretty funny.
Hold on, I gotta take a picture of it so we can.
Oh, I was just gonna send it to you.
Okay, guys. Say bye to everyone.
Bye. Everyone. Goodbye. Ah!